God says, your soulmate knows they're losing you. This is why. Pause for a moment. Don't scroll, don't rush. If you've been feeling a quiet distance lately, not anger or conflict, just a strange emotional space, this message is for you. Because what you're sensing isn't imagined. They do feel you slipping away, not through words or arguments, but through the moment you stop chasing. And if you've been asking yourself, if they feel it, why aren't they doing anything? Listen carefully. What's stopping them isn't lack of love. It's fear. You may not fully understand why this feels heavy in your chest right now. You might even be telling yourself that you don't usually listen to messages like this, or that you don't know why these words are reaching you so deeply. But something inside you already knows. Something recognized this moment before your mind had time to question it. Lately, you've been feeling different, not in a dramatic way, not in a way you could easily explain to someone else. Just quieter, more withdrawn. You still show up, you still smile, you still do what needs to be done. But emotionally, something in you stepped back. You stopped reaching, you stopped explaining yourself. You stopped waiting for someone to finally meet you where you were already standing. And you didn't do this to hurt anyone. You didn't do this to create distance. You did it because something in you was getting tired. Tired of being the one who cared more. Tired of feeling deeply while receiving uncertainty in return. Tired of holding a connection that felt sacred to you while feeling like it was optional to them. You didn't announce this change. You didn't threaten to leave. You didn't even consciously decide anything. The shift happened quietly, almost without your permission. And what you need to understand right now is that this shift did not go unnoticed. Your soulmate felt it, not through words, not through a message or a conversation. They felt it through absence, through the way your energy stopped chasing, through the way your presence no longer tried to hold everything together by itself, through the way you stopped needing reassurance just to feel safe. Even if they can't explain it, even if they pretend they don't notice, they felt the difference. Because when someone is truly connected to you, they don't just feel your love, they feel your withdrawal. They feel when something important begins to slip through their fingers. And that's where their inner conflict began. They sense you slipping away, but they don't know how to reach for you without facing themselves. They realize they're losing you, but they're terrified of admitting why. Because admitting it would mean acknowledging what they didn't protect, what they took for granted, and what they assumed would always stay no matter how little effort they gave. So instead of moving closer, they freeze. Instead of speaking honestly, they go quiet. And you might be wondering, if they feel this so deeply, why aren't they doing anything? Here's the truth most people don't understand. Silence is not always confidence. Distance is not always indifference. Sometimes silence is fear wearing the mask of control. Sometimes distance is someone hoping the situation fixes itself without them having to change. Your soulmate is standing at the edge of a realization that makes them uncomfortable. Because if they step forward, they'll have to see themselves clearly. And not everyone is ready to do that, especially when ego has been louder than vulnerability for a long time. And this is what God wants you to know right now. This space you're feeling, this emotional separation, it is not punishment. It is alignment. God often creates distance not to end something, but to reveal it, to show who grows when love is no longer guaranteed, to show who changes when comfort is removed. Nothing is being missed. Nothing is being ignored. Every hesitation is seen. Every realization is noted. Every moment your soulmate sits alone and feels the weight of you no longer being fully there is part of a larger unfolding. And while they are struggling internally, you are being protected. They are torn between reaching out and staying the same. One part of them wants to fix this, to hold on to you before it's too late. Another part fears that reaching out would require change, accountability, and emotional honesty. And change feels terrifying to someone who built their comfort on your patience. So they wait, they hesitate, they hope you'll stay the same, but you're not meant to, and deep down they know that's exactly why they're losing you. And this is only the beginning of what's being revealed. Because while you were quietly stepping back, something very real was happening on the other side of the connection. Your soulmate began to feel the loss before it actually happened. Not the loss of your presence, but the loss of your availability. They noticed that you weren't leaning in the same way anymore. That your energy didn't rush to fill the silence. That you weren't waiting for them to show up so you could finally breathe again. At first, they couldn't name it. They just felt unsettled. A strange restlessness they couldn't explain. Something felt off, even when everything looked the same on the surface. They noticed you weren't asking the same questions. You weren't checking in the same way. You weren't holding space for uncertainty anymore. And what confused them most was that you didn't seem angry. You were calm. And calm scared them more than confrontation ever could. Because anger still means someone is emotionally invested. Silence paired with peace means someone is preparing to let go. That's when fear arrived quietly. Not as panic, not as desperation, but as a slow realization creeping in late at night, in moments of stillness, in the spaces where distraction no longer worked. They began to sense that you weren't waiting anymore. Not waiting for a message. Not waiting for reassurance. Not waiting for them to finally choose you. And that realization hit them in a place they tried very hard not to look at. Because when someone realizes they might lose you, it forces them to confront a painful question. Did I value them enough when I had them? This is where the inner battle begins. One part of them feels the attachment, the bond, the familiarity, the comfort of knowing you were there. Another part clings to ego, the need to feel in control, the fear of admitting fault, the resistance to change. And those two parts don't coexist peacefully. Attachment says, reach out, fix this, don't let this slip away. Ego says, if you reach out, you'll have to admit you were wrong. You'll have to be vulnerable. So instead of acting, they hesitate. Instead of speaking, they retreat inward. Instead of showing fear, they wear silence like armor. This is why people panic when they sense loss, not because they're losing control of someone else, but because they're losing the version of themselves that felt safe without effort. Your soulmate is beginning to realize that you were more than convenience, more than consistency, more than someone who would always stay no matter what. And that realization is unsettling. Because now, every quiet moment reminds them of what they didn't nurture. Every delay reminds them of what they assumed would never leave. Every memory carries a new weight, the weight of what if. And still, they may say nothing. Not because they don't care, but because silence often hides fear far more than confidence. Confidence moves toward what it values. Fear waits, hoping the situation resolves itself. Your soulmate is afraid of reaching out, and discovering that the space between you is no longer temporary. Afraid that you've already outgrown the version of them that once felt enough. Afraid that if they speak now, it might be too late. So they stay still, watching, feeling, overthinking, caught between wanting you back and knowing that wanting alone is no longer enough. And while they are stuck in that realization, something else is happening. You are no longer shrinking to keep the connection alive. And they feel that shift more deeply than they ever felt your words. And because they feel that shift so deeply, the question becomes unavoidable. If they sense they're losing you, why aren't they reaching out? Why does it feel like they're choosing silence instead of you? The truth is, reaching out now feels riskier to them than staying quiet. Because silence still gives them hope without requiring courage. The moment they speak, everything becomes real. Real accountability. Real consequences. Real answers they may not be ready to face. One of the biggest reasons they hesitate is fear of rejection. Not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that says, "What if I reach out and they no longer want me?" They felt safe when you were emotionally available. Now that you've stepped back, they don't know where they stand. And uncertainty terrifies someone who relied on your consistency. There is also guilt. Guilt over moments they dismissed. Over effort they delayed. Over times they chose comfort over growth. They replay situations in their mind and realize too late where they fell short. And guilt makes people freeze, not move forward. Because reaching out would mean acknowledging that they hurt you, that they didn't protect the connection the way they should have. And that realization is heavy. So instead of facing it, they avoid it. Pride plays its role too, but not in the way most people think. It's not arrogance. It's insecurity pretending to be strength. They don't want to appear needy. They don't want to admit they're scared. They don't want to risk losing the image of control they've built around themselves. So they hold back, even while everything inside them feels unstable. Another truth is this: they don't know how to come back. They don't know what words would be enough. They don't know how to apologize without exposing themselves emotionally. They don't know how to reconnect without changing. And change feels overwhelming when someone has spent so long being comfortable. So instead of taking responsibility, they wait. They tell themselves that if you really care, you'll reach out again. That if the connection is meant to last, it will survive without effort. That if you stay, they won't have to grow. And this is the most painful part. They are hoping you'll stay without requiring them to show up differently. They want reassurance without vulnerability. They want connection without discomfort. They want love without transformation. But deep down, they know that version of the connection is slipping away. They feel it in the silence. They feel it when days pass and you don't chase. They feel it when your energy no longer bends around their absence. And that realization creates a quiet panic they don't know how to express. So they stay quiet, not because they don't care, but because caring now demands more than they've been willing to give. And while they are stuck in fear, guilt, and pride, something important is happening for you. You are no longer begging for clarity. You are no longer shrinking to keep someone comfortable. You are no longer waiting for effort that should have come naturally. And that is why their silence feels louder than words ever could. Because silence in this moment is not strength, It is hesitation standing in the way of growth. And the longer they wait, the more they realize that the version of you who would have stayed without effort is no longer here. And in the middle of all this silence, all this hesitation, all this confusion, God is not distant. God is watching both of you with equal clarity and equal compassion. You may feel like nothing is happening, like everything has been paused, but from God's perspective, nothing here is wasted. Every delay, every moment of distance, every unanswered feeling has meaning. Delay does not mean denial. It never has. Sometimes delay is protection. Sometimes it is preparation. Sometimes it is the only way growth can happen without breaking what is meant to last. God sees your heart. He sees how deeply you loved, how long you waited, how much patience you offered before you finally stepped back. He also sees your soulmate's heart, their fear, their confusion, their inner struggle between holding on and being willing to change. Nothing is hidden from him. This separation you're experiencing is not punishment. It is correction. Not correction meant to shame, but correction meant to realign. When love becomes unbalanced, when one soul carries more weight than the other, God creates space, not to destroy the connection, but to restore truth within it. God respects free will more than anything. He will never force someone to choose growth. He will never push someone into transformation before they're ready. And he will never ask you to keep shrinking just to make someone else comfortable. That is not love. That is sacrifice without return. Right now, both of you are being allowed to choose. Your soulmate is being shown what happens when effort is delayed. You are being shown what happens when you finally choose peace. And the space between you is doing what words never could. It is revealing intentions. It is exposing readiness. It is separating attachment from alignment. God is not rushing this process because rushing would only recreate the same patterns. Growth must come before union, not after. Otherwise, the same wounds repeat, just in a different form. God knows that love without growth eventually becomes pain, so he pauses the connection until both souls are able to meet it with maturity. You might wonder why God doesn't simply bring you back together immediately, especially if the connection feels real. But God does not restore relationships the way humans do. He restores people first, and sometimes the only way to do that is through distance that teaches what closeness could not. This is not about losing love. This is about refining it. God is gently guiding you away from chasing and toward trusting, guiding your soulmate away from comfort and toward accountability, not with force but with awareness. And while it may feel uncomfortable, there is protection in this pause. Protection from repeating cycles. Protection from settling for less than mutual effort. Protection from confusing attachment with destiny. God is holding you steady right now. You are not forgotten. You are not being replaced. You are not being tested to see how much pain you can endure. You are being prepared to receive love that meets you fully, whether that comes through transformation or redirection. And whatever unfolds next will not require you to beg, chase, or shrink. What is meant for you will rise to meet you with the same depth you've always given. This distance is not the end. It is the moment where truth becomes unavoidable. And God is right here, guiding every step quietly, patiently, lovingly. And when you finally begin to walk away, not in anger, not in drama, but in quiet acceptance, something powerful happens. Because loss has a way of waking people up that words never can. Your absence starts speaking in places your voice never reached. The silence you leave behind becomes louder than every explanation you once tried to give. And only then do they begin to truly feel what they're about to lose. At first, they tell themselves it's temporary, that you'll come back, that you always do. But as time passes, something feels different. The connection doesn't bounce back the way it used to. Your energy doesn't return to fill the space they left empty. And that's when the awakening begins. They start replaying conversations, moments they brushed off, times they chose comfort over effort. They begin to notice the ways you showed up when they didn't, the patience you offered, the love they assumed would never leave. Absence creates clarity, not immediately, but inevitably. And with that clarity comes a crossroads. Some people meet loss with growth. They finally see themselves honestly. They take responsibility. They soften their ego and choose to evolve. They realize that love is not something you wait to appreciate once it's gone. But others meet loss with regret. They stay stuck in what could have been. They replay the past without changing the present. They miss you, but they don't grow. They long for the connection, but resist the work it requires. This is the moment that reveals who they truly are. Walking away doesn't guarantee someone will rise. It simply removes the illusion that they don't have to. Your absence forces them to sit with themselves. No distraction, no reassurance, no emotional safety net. And that's uncomfortable. Because when you're no longer there to soften the consequences of their choices, they have to face the truth alone. They feel the weight of not choosing you when they had the chance. They feel the emptiness where your presence used to bring warmth. They feel the difference between having access to you and losing you. And still, the outcome depends on them. Some will rise to meet the loss with transformation. They will finally understand that love requires presence, effort, and courage. They will grow in ways they never would have if you had stayed. Others will repeat their patterns. They will blame timing. They will blame circumstances. They will tell themselves the story that it just wasn't meant to be, instead of admitting they weren't ready. But here's the truth you need to hear. Walking away is not about teaching someone a lesson. It's about honoring yourself. It's about choosing peace over potential, clarity over confusion, self-respect over waiting. And whether your soulmate grows or stays the same, your decision to step forward changes everything for you. Because when you stop holding the connection together alone, you create space for something healthier to enter your life. Something that doesn't require you to disappear to be appreciated. Loss awakens those who are ready, and it releases those who are not. And whatever happens next will not be based on who needed you the most, but on who was willing to grow when it mattered. And that is where the truth finally settles. So listen to me now, gently, without fear. I see you. Not just the version of you that smiles and keeps going, but the part of you that grew tired of waiting in silence. The part of you that loved deeply and questioned quietly. You are not forgotten. You have never been invisible to me, even in moments when you felt unseen by the one you cared for most. I know you've wondered if you did something wrong, if stepping back meant giving up, if choosing peace meant failing at love. Let me be clear with you. You are not being punished. You are being protected. There is a difference. I protected your heart when it was carrying more than it should have. I protected your spirit when it was shrinking to keep someone else comfortable. And I protected your future by not allowing you to lose yourself in waiting. You never had to chase love. Love was never meant to feel like exhaustion. What is meant for you does not run when you stop trying. What is meant for you does not require you to beg for consistency. I watched every tear you didn't explain, every prayer you whispered when no one else was listening, every time you chose patience even when it hurt. Nothing was wasted, nothing was ignored. The distance you feel right now is not abandonment. It is alignment. It is me removing what no longer meets you at the level you've grown into. It is me making room for honesty, whether that comes through transformation or release. You are safe in my hands, even when the future feels unclear, even when answers are delayed, even when your heart feels tired. I know you worry about what will happen next, whether love will return, whether healing will last, whether you'll have to walk this path alone. You won't, but understand this. I will not bring back what requires you to become smaller. I will not restore what survives only through your sacrifice. I will not ask you to settle for half-hearted love when your heart was created for depth. What is meant for you will meet you halfway. It will come with effort, not excuses. With presence, not uncertainty. With peace, not constant questioning. Trust the stillness. Trust the pause. Trust that I am working even when you can't see movement. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be for what comes next. And when love returns to you, whether through change or new beginnings, it will recognize you not as someone to be tested, but as someone to be cherished. Rest now. Release the need to control what unfolds. You have done enough. I am guiding you. I am guarding you. And nothing meant for you will pass you by. And as this message begins to quiet your mind, let it also soften your heart. You don't need to rush into decisions right now. You don't need to force clarity. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Just breathe. What you felt today wasn't pressure. It wasn't fear. It was recognition. A reminder that you are allowed to choose peace. That love does not need to be chased to be real. That what's meant for you does not disappear when you stop holding it together alone. If your heart feels a little lighter right now, that's not coincidence. It's because truth has a calming effect when you finally hear it. And sometimes the deepest healing happens quietly, without announcement. You are not behind. You are not losing time. You are not missing your chance. You are learning how to trust yourself again. How to listen when your spirit says, enough. How to believe that love will meet you where you are, not where you're willing to shrink to. Carry this message gently with you. Not as something to analyze, but as something to remember when doubt returns. Because it will try to. And when it does, remind yourself of this moment. Of the stillness. Of the calm. Of the knowing that brought you here. There is more unfolding for you than you can see right now. More alignment. More clarity. More love that doesn't confuse you. And when you're ready, Another message will find you, not by accident, but by timing. Until then, stay soft, stay grounded, stay open. You are held, you are guided, and you are never walking alone.